faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, I'll be interpreting the book called Presence for You. For professionals, presence is an essential internal skill to cultivate. Without it at work, even if you've been in a role for years, it doesn't guarantee you won't be laid off. Even if you work hard every day, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get promoted. To thrive in the workplace, just working hard isn't enough. You need a unique label that lets others see your value and want to collaborate with you. Think about it. Is there someone like this around you? As soon as his department is mentioned, everyone immediately thinks of him. In meetings, whenever he speaks, he becomes the focus of the entire room. When there's a good project opportunity, leaders immediately think of sending him. That's the charm of presence. The author of this book, Christy Hedges, is a world-class leadership coach. She's active in American politics, serving as a political consultant for state campaigns and presidential candidates. And later, she entered the business world, founded her own consulting firm, and provides advice and training to Fortune 500 executives. In this book, she comprehensively explains how to possess a strong presence in the workplace. Christie points out that workplace presence has three key characteristics. First is intentionality, meaning first determine what kind of presence you want to build. Second is connectivity, meaning building presence by strengthening connections with others. Third is inspiration, meaning using your presence to influence others. Now, let's talk in detail about how to build workplace presence, starting from these three characteristics. First, let's look at the first characteristic, intentionality. Intention is what the heart desires. What traits do you truly want to show internally and externally? That is a clear goal. Intentions can be grand and stable, like I want to be a decisive leader, or short-term and situational. For example, in this meeting, I want to be a change maker. First, you need to determine a relatively stable intention label. This is like a brand needing to establish its own brand value and positioning. The intention label is built on a full awareness of your own personality, abilities, and potential, serving as the internal driving force of presence. Once you have a clear positioning, this intention label acts like a lighthouse in the sea, constantly reminding you to show your best self. And what qualities do you aspire to demonstrate in the workplace? In other words, how do you want others to perceive you? As someone humble and low-key, confident and assertive, innovative and pioneering, or steady and reliable? It's important to remember that when setting intentions, fully consider your own traits and strengths, don't aim for perfection or ideals, and don't go against your true self. For example, suppose you're naturally creative and passionate, but you try to make others see you as mature and stable. Although you can force yourself to suppress your active thoughts and ideas, you'll definitely feel very uncomfortable. At this point, if you set your intention label as someone who has both ideas and capabilities, you'll feel much more at ease. In short, intentions aren't meant to restrict your strengths and traits, making you unable to be yourself. Rather, they help you become a better version of yourself. If you don't have a clear intention in mind yet, why not look to the outstanding people around you? See what they do well and find and select qualities you value in them. For instance, there's a colleague in your department who takes full responsibility for any work he's involved in. Even if he steps away midway, he continues to monitor the project's progress and offers support. You admire this about him, so his strong sense of responsibility can be one of your intention labels. However, a stable intention label isn't a cure-all. When facing specific situations, we also need to have a more direct impact on the people present. The book calls this situational intention labels. How do you establish situational intention labels? You just need to think about one question. What feelings do you want the audience to have about this interaction? Then, based on those desired feelings, shape your intention. Let's take one of the most common scenarios in the workplace. Using a meeting as an example, suppose you're the leader of a sales team and you plan to gather everyone for a meeting to understand the root cause of the recent poor performance. If you choose the intention label of being inspirational, hoping that after the meeting, everyone feels excited, confident, and motivated, then you can set your situational intention accordingly. To make everyone understand that the purpose of this meeting is to solve problems, not to blame, to not avoid issues, but to face and solve them together. The stable intention labels and situational intention labels we discussed earlier are still just internal psychological activities. Next, let's see how to convey your internal intentions through external expressions. External expressions can be divided into two categories. Micro expressions include dressing, body language, facial expressions, etc., which are the most direct and immediately noticeable. As the saying goes, clothes make the man and the saddle makes the horse. What you wear constantly declares to others who you are and directly influences their perception of you. Being neat and appropriate is just the most basic requirement for workplace attire. To have presence, dressing must follow one principle: dress for the job you want, not the job you have. For example, if you want to be the company's creative director and your intention label is exceptional creativity, then don't wear black suits and dark ties like everyone else. Add elements that showcase personality and style. However, dressing is only the most superficial microexpression. Among tools for conveying intention labels, body language and facial expressions are actually more important and leave a deeper impression. For instance, if you're attending an important interview and want to leave a confident impression on the manager, how should you behave? In terms of overall posture, you should stand tall with your chest out, open your shoulders, and be full of energy. For gestures, you should openly spread your arms, ready to embrace opportunities and challenges. Never cross your arms or put your hands behind your back. Also, for facial expressions, you should wear a smile. When speaking, maintain appropriate eye contact with the person you're talking to. Beyond details like dressing and body language, on a macro level, intention labels are also reflected in how you prioritize work behaviors and your consistency. For example, if you want to be seen as meticulous by others, you can examine the following. Before handing in documents to your leader today, did you take time to double check them? When responsible for marketing planning, did you emphasize preliminary market research and analysis to ensure the sales plan is well founded? For every weekly meeting this month, have your statements been well considered? As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. To convey your intention labels, corresponding actions are the most convincing. In short, to enhance presence through intentionality. First, establish internal intentions, including a relatively stable intention label and various situational intention labels adapted to circumstances. Second, convey intentions through external expressions, such as dressing, body language, and facial expressions. These micro expressions, along with consistent prioritization of work behaviors. Having covered these macro expressions for conveying intentionality, let's now look at the second characteristic of workplace presence. That connectivity refers to the connections between people. The book also calls it individuality, meaning that to have presence in the workplace, you need to establish deep connections with each individual. How to strengthen connections between individuals? First, the initial step is to build trust. In the workplace, complex interest relationships exist between everyone. Trust is actually quite rare. Leaders might ignore practical difficulties and stubbornly follow their own ideas. Ambitious colleagues might steal others' efforts to claim credit. So, in this treacherous workplace, how exactly can you gain others' trust? The first key to building trust is professionalism. The more skills, knowledge, and experience you possess in your field, the higher your credibility. For example, if you're great at data analysis, whenever people get dense data and tables from clients, they'll immediately think of you and invite you to interpret it for everyone. So, uh, beyond hard skills, vision and perspective also reflect professionalism. If you can have a clear and profound understanding of your field, if you're intimately familiar with industry history and the strengths and weaknesses of leading companies, this expertise makes your words seem authoritative. People will see you as trustworthy, which helps build confidence. The second key is keeping your word. If you always deliver what you promise, people will see you as reliable and trustworthy, gaining their confidence and winning more opportunities. For example, if you consistently deliver your portion of work on schedule, then in future major projects, people will gladly invite you to participate. However, building trust requires long-term effort, but one breach can make the trust collapse instantly. So, don't seek momentary satisfaction by easily promising things you can't deliver. For example, publicly announcing overly ambitious annual performance targets. Also, if issues arise during the process, like a partner suddenly withdrawing, don't try to handle it alone. Explain the situation to everyone promptly to avoid misunderstandings and preserve their trust in you. Beyond professionalism and keeping promises, never always prioritize your own interests first. Think about those annoying salespeople who will go to any lengths to sell you a product. So when you see them approaching, you resist both mentally and behaviorally. Similarly, self-importance and selfishness are major taboos in the workplace. People who belittle others to elevate themselves, those who always think they hold the truth, and those who must win at all costs, make others avoid them, let alone build trust relationships. Like a bridge, it makes others willing to approach you, believe in you, and strengthen deep connections. The second step is to cultivate empathy. Empathy is an indicator of emotional intelligence, referring to the ability to stand in others' shoes and understand their perspective. When someone understands us, we feel an impulse to build close connections with them. Empathy is the catalyst that forges connections between individuals. Once you understand the other person, you can communicate in ways they're more receptive to, enhancing your persuasiveness. Now, how do we cultivate empathy? The process can be divided into 4 steps: understanding, listening, validating, and relating. First, understanding isn't just knowing someone's department, job title, or previous company. Understanding means having a comprehensive grasp of a person, their personality, approach to things, strengths, etc. How can you tell if you truly understand someone? When facing specific situations, ask yourself, if I were this person, what would I do? If you can't answer, your understanding isn't complete yet. Try gathering more information from different angles. Next is listening. Often, we only half listen before unintentionally zoning out. We might be thinking about the next question, an upcoming conference call, or leaving work on time. But listening requires absolute focus. Put down your phone, step away from the computer, respond actively instead of just saying, and even delve deeper by asking new questions to cultivate empathy. The third step is validation. Validation is neither acceptance nor agreement. Validation means that from the other's perspective, you see why they hold this view. So, how do you validate when you completely disagree with their viewpoint? Simply let them know you understand why they're saying it. No need to change their mind. It's like saying, I'm sorry during an argument with your partner. Take a deep breath together, letting the anger dissipate. The issue can still be discussed. The final step is relating, finding similar experiences you've had and sharing them with the other person. For example, if your colleagues have been discussing their fears about layoffs lately, you could share your story about facing similar pressure at your previous company. If you haven't experienced it directly, you can also share a friend's story. In short, through relating, You engage in the discussion and let colleagues feel you truly empathize with their experience, strengthening connections with others. The third step is to overcome perfectionism. Many mistakenly believe that to succeed professionally and leave a good impression, you must hide your true self, especially your flaws, showing only perfection. While enviable, this also makes people seem unapproachable. Being open about your weaknesses can actually create human connections. Imagine if your department manager is highly capable and effective, but overly fixated on details. During meeting reports, everyone treads carefully. If he openly admits, I'm very particular about details, but it's never personal, people would instead see the manager as sincere. This is the appeal of imperfection. So rather than exhausting yourself playing a perfect role that seems fake, stay genuine and show your imperfections. To briefly recap strengthening connections. First, build trust through professionalism, keeping promises, and considering others' interests. Second, cultivate empathy by following the 4 steps: understanding, listening, validating, and relating. 4 steps. Finally, overcome perfectionism by honestly facing your weaknesses. Now we move to the final characteristic of workplace presence: inspiration. Inspiration means using your presence to influence others, transforming their thoughts, perspectives, or behaviors. Today's corporate structures are more complex, rendering traditional top-down command models ineffective. This is where workplace presence helps others understand your ideas and internalize your solutions themselves. And before inspiring others, a crucial preparation is identifying the actual barriers to change. How can we facilitate change? This requires understanding how our brains process information and make decisions. Our brains are naturally resistant to change. To minimize effortful thinking and conserve energy, the brain stores years of experience in long-term memory, forming fixed cognitive patterns. When facing new situations, it defaults to familiar cognitive pathways for quick responses. Thus, we seek information confirming existing beliefs while avoiding contradictory ideas, making change difficult. The good news is the brain's plasticity is astonishing. Creating new neural connections is easier than altering existing ones. For example, after an inspiring time management talk, your adrenaline surges with excitement. If you immediately share with friends or practice the ideas on your way home, change takes root. Conversely, delaying action means losing that momentum, missing the best opportunity for change. Thus, acting immediately is the best way to make change happen. Now that you understand the optimal conditions for change, inspiring others simply requires creating favorable conditions. The author offers 2 strategies: crafting a vision and harnessing the power of declarations. First, let's explore vision crafting. In companies, leaders create visions by outlining future directions and painting strategic blueprints. But do individuals need personal visions too? If you want to influence a team, you can propose a vision to inspire and motivate everyone. A good vision must be grand and dynamic to unite the team toward a common mission. A great vision must transcend specific business activities and economic interests, reaching the level of values. For example, bringing happiness to customers or enriching people's communication and lives. Thus, short-term tactical goals like innovating sales models or financial targets like increasing performance by 25% are failed visions. Additionally, the vision must remain actively alive. Otherwise, it becomes meaningless slogans, forgotten after being shouted. Therefore, integrating division into daily work interactions is crucial. For instance, when summarizing quarterly achievements in meetings or acknowledging a team member's special effort, link these to the vision to show how their work contributes to its realization. When facing clients, mention your vision to show them this is a team with purpose and pursuit. Now let's examine the second strategy: declarations. Declarations are bold, confident statements that energize. Their significance lies in using language's power to display confidence and inspire influence. For example, at Apple's 2007 product launch, Jobs began, "Today, we're making history together." Just that simple sentence instantly ignited the audience's passion. Imagine if he'd used common phrasing instead of a declaration. Like, "I want to share some company changes." That would have greatly diminished the impact. That's the power of declarations. But such grand declarations can be too flashy for daily work. How to harness declaration power practically. The method is simple. Replace hesitant starters like "I think" or "maybe" with "I will" or "I plan to." For example, instead of saying, "I think I should be able to upgrade the financial system soon," apply declaration power with modifications. To declare, "I commit to completing the full financial system upgrade by year end." See? Small linguistic shifts not only convey information but also inspire others. All right, now you understand how the cognitive mechanisms formed during human brain's long evolution make change incredibly difficult. Fortunately, utilizing the two strategies of vision and declarations can foster new connections, creating optimal conditions to inspire others. Speaking of which, we've now covered the three major characteristics of presence: intentionality, connectivity, and inspiration. Have you noticed these three characteristics operate precisely from the inside out? This is exactly how presence functions. It's a self formed label that connects with others and ultimately influences them. Presence is a unique behavior. It must maintain precise balance with your true self. Presence built on pretense or imitation can't last. Only inner cultivation creates truly unique and powerful presence. All right, presence. That concludes our interpretation of this book. Keynotes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.